Hola chicos, bienvenidos a este video de práctica. Hello guys and welcome to this practice video. Lately we've been working with changing verbs, and what I'm going to do today with you is to practice a little bit. I'm going to write some sentences using those verbs that we've been talking about lately, those verbs that when you conjugate them, some of the vowels or some of the letters from the stem change slightly, although we still use the normal endings to conjugate the verb, those normal endings that we use for regular verbs. Okay, let's begin. Sentence number 1. I'm going to use the verb close. Do you remember what's the verb to close? The verb to close is the verb cerrar. And what happens to that verb? The E becomes an IE, following the boot. Remember, not all the boxes, only the ones that make the shape of an L. So I, you, he, she, it, and they, but never we or you all. So, for example, the sentence that I'm going to give you is, I always close the door with my key, for example. I don't know if that makes much sense in English, but it does in Spanish. So how would you say that? You would say something like, okay, I'm going to use a different color. Red, for example. Yo, I, although that can be said or not, that's completely up to you. Siempre, always. And now the verb is cerrar. So the stem, I should add the ending here. It should be cerro, but it's not, remember, because the E becomes an IE. So it's cierro. Yo siempre cierro, cierro la puerta con mi llave. Yo siempre cierro la puerta con mi llave. I always close the door with my key. Let me give you another one. For example, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to use the verb to want or to love. That is the verb querer. What happens to that verb? Exactly the same. An E is going to become an IE. So imagine I want to say, I don't want to go to the cinema. I don't want to go to the cinema. So, how would I say that? Vale. Right. Okay. Again, we begin with the I, yo. That's optional. It's negative. So I don't want. So we say no. And now the verb querer. Remember that the E becomes an IE. So, quiero. Yo no quiero. I don't want. And now the verb to go. You no need to change. You have already changed the first one, and we hardly ever change two verbs that are working together. I don't want to go, no quiero ir a el cine, but when we have a el together, that normally melts into al. So yo no quiero ir al cine. I don't want to go to the cinema. Using the same verb, let me use a we. So you see that it doesn't change for a we. For example, we want 2 white coffees and a Coke. We want 2 white coffees and a Coke. Could you say that in English? I hope so. Vale. How would you say that? Well, we would say we, nosotros, again, optional. And now the verb is querer. But remember that the verb querer and all these verbs follow the but rule. So it doesn't change for a we or a you plural. So we use it like this. Queremos. The I in this case doesn't become an I. Nosotros queremos 2 cafés con leche y una Coca-Cola. Nosotros queremos 2 cafés con leche y una Coca-Cola. I hope it's making sense so far. Vale. Number 3. I'm going to use a different verb. For example, now I'm going for the verb. Let me think. Okay. Okay. The verb come back or to return to a place. And that is the verb volver. What happens to volver? The O becomes a UE. O becomes a UE, following the but rule. So let me give you a few sentences here. For example, they come back. They come back. They always. Sometimes. They sometimes come back on a train. Could you say that in English? They've gone somewhere and sometimes they come back on a train. So, how would you do that? Vale. Think about it. I'll give you some time to think about it. We begin with the subject, ellos, optional, sometimes. How do we say sometimes? We saw all these little time prepositions. A veces, or you can say also algunas veces. I prefer a veces because it's shorter. You can use any other, one or the other you choose. Ellos a veces. And now the important part, to come back, volver, stem changing verb. The O becomes UE. So vuelven and they sometimes come back on a train. Or maybe you would say by train in English. Sometimes they come back by train. Same thing. Ellos a veces vuelven en tren. That's what we would say in Spanish. Okay, more. Using the same verb. When, oops, what color am I using? Sorry, technology is not my strong thing. Vale. When? Let's make a question. Let's ask a question. When do they come back? When are they coming back? I know probably you would say, when are they coming back? But you can say this in Spanish. Vale, easy peasy. How do you say when? Well, remember you have to start the question with a symbol. And when? ¿Cuándo? ¿Cuándo vuelven ellos? ¿Cuándo vuelven ellos? ¿Cuándo has an accent? ¿Cuándo vuelven ellos? When are they coming back? When do they come back? Imagine I want to answer. I could say they come back tomorrow, for example. Ellos, optional, vuelven mañana. They come back tomorrow. More verbs or more sentences. For example, let's use a different verb now. I'm going to use, I feel like using the verb. Let me think. I feel like using the verb. The verb pedir. Oops. What's in English? The verb to order. Sorry, I gave it to you. To order, to ask for something. Never a question. It's to ask for a favor, to ask for a Coke, to ask for something. And that's the verb, as I told you before, by mistake, pedir. What happens to that verb? Well, this is one of those verbs where the E becomes an I. E to an I, following the boot again. So imagine I want to say a typical waiter coming to you and asking you, what do you, are you ready to order? Oh, that wouldn't be conjugated. Let me think of a different example. Okay. We always order the same when we come here. Okay, in this case you have two verbs. I'll tell you what's the other verb to come later. Although maybe you know that verb as well. But let's try to solve this one. We always order the same when we come here. Okay, do you think we are going to change the verb? We are conjugating the verb pedir for a we. And that's not inside of the boot. So, no. So we will use it as a normal verb. So, oops, sorry. Nosotros, optional, siempre pedimos lo mismo cuando nosotros, optional again. What's the verb to come? The verb to come is the verb venir, which is an stem changing verb as well, but it's a go verb. So only changes when it's first person single. So being a we doesn't change. So cuando nosotros venimos aquí, oops, with an I and an accent, aquí. Nosotros siempre pedimos lo mismo cuando nosotros venimos aquí, o siempre pedimos lo mismo cuando venimos aquí. More. Let me give you another one. For example, he orders ice cream. See, sometimes orders ice cream, for example. No, let me change that sometime for a never. He never orders ice cream. He hates ice cream. For example, I'll tell you what's the verb to hate later. Vale, let's try to do that one. He. How do we say he? For a he, we say, vaya hombre. cannot change the color. Why? This. Okay. See why I cannot change the color. Now, vale. He's a L, although that's optional. Never. Nunca. And now the verb pedir for a he. So that is inside of the boot. So the E becomes an I. Él nunca pide ice cream. How do we say ice cream? Helado. Now the verb to hate is the verb odiar. Odiar. Completely regular verb. Normal. So, él odia. And we need to say, we don't say he hates ice cream. We will say he hates the ice cream. Él odia el helado. Él nunca pide helado. Él odia el helado. Yeah. Sounds good. Sounds good. Vale. More. Shall we change for another verb? So you see a wide variety of verbs. For example, let's change for the verb. Okay, the verb to play. What's the verb to play? Not an instrument. To play sports, to play games. That's the verb. Stem changing and a unique verb, because this verb is the only one in its category. Why? Because this verb is stem changing because the U becomes a UE following the boot. UE. Vale. So, where do you play tennis? I play tennis in a sport center near Sicas, which is a little village or a town. Vale, let's see if we can do that one. Okie dokie. Where? ¿Dónde? With an accent. ¿Dónde? Don't try to translate the do, the does, because we don't have them and we don't need them to ask. So, ¿dónde tú? Although you don't need that, to be honest. ¿Dónde tú? And now, the important part. Play for a U. U becomes UE. ¿Dónde juegas tenis? Cuando juegas tenis. Normally, it's not compulsory, but normally the verb to play something, is followed by the preposition a. So, ¿dónde juegas el tenis? And that al, remember, when you have al, always melts into al. So, ¿dónde juegas al tenis? And now, yo juego, still stem changing inside of the boot, al tenis en un sport center. We call those sports centers, we call them polideportivo. Near, we saw the sports center, according. Near, we saw these little words to talk about places. Close, near, under, on. Cerca de Balsicas. Okay, so repeat after me. ¿Dónde juegas al tenis? Juego al tenis en un polideportivo cerca de Balsicas. Let's continue with the verb play because it's a very common verb. Vale? For example, I play with my little nephew. Let's use a frequency adverb. So I sometimes I play. Sometimes I play with my little nephew. I don't know if that is the correct order in English, but that works in Spanish. So sometimes, how do we say that? We say a veces or algunas veces. You choose. Although I like a veces just because it's shorter. A veces yo play. The verb jugar, stem changing. U to a UE. Juego. Con mi nephew. We've seen the family. How do you say nephew? Sobrino pequeño. A veces yo juego con mi sobrino pequeño. More. And let me, for example, give you another one that will be when do you, and that you is going to be a you plural, several people. When do you play football? We play football on Wednesdays and Fridays, for example. ¿Vale? Okay, we're still using the verb jugar, but now we are using it for a you plural, vosotros, and a we. Do you think there will be changes? Remember that we follow the but rule, and the we and the you all, it's never inside of the but. So, cuando do you want to say you plural? You can, it's optional. Vosotros jugáis al fútbol. ¿Cuándo jugáis al fútbol? Sí, the predictive text is asking me to omit the vosotros. It detects that it is unnecessary, but I'm going to leave it there for you. Okay? ¿Vale? ¿Cuándo jugáis al fútbol? And nosotros jugamos al fútbol los miércoles y viernes. ¿Cuándo jugáis al fútbol? Jugamos al fútbol los miércoles y los viernes. So no changes, neither here nor here, because it's a we and a you all, and it doesn't change there. Let's change the verb. Let's go for a different verb. For example, okay, let's go for the verb. Oops. 6. Let's go for the verb. Quite important verb. To do, to make. What's the verb to do or to make? That's the verb hacer. What happens to that verb? That is one of those go verbs. One of those verbs that need an extra G in the first person single. This one is tricky, okay? So if you want, I can conjugate it for you. I'll conjugate the whole verb. So, yo hago, tú haces, and the rest is normal. But the I is hago. So, sentences. I do yoga on the beach on at the weekends. At the weekends. Well, it says that it's on the weekend, probably because it's American. I won't change that. I know it's at the weekends. Well, I think it's at the weekends in English. Vale. Spanish. I, yo. Needed. Not needed. You can say that or not. It's up to you. Now, the important part. Do. Hago. Yoga. La playa. Los fines de semana. And that can be shortened to los fines. Los fines. Fines de semana. It's probably better. ¿Vale? Yo hago yoga en la playa los fines de semana. Another sentence. Do you do your homework? Do you do your homework on time? Do you think the verb is going to be strange for a you? Remember that is a go verb. No, it only changes for an I, because go verbs add an extra G in the first person single, I, but not in the rest. So, how would you say that? It's a question. So, tú haces tus deberes a tiempo. ¿Haces tus deberes a tiempo? If any of you are using Duolingo, Duolingo uses lots of words from South America. So maybe you were thinking for homework, you were thinking of the word tarea, but that's South American. Deberes is the one that we use here in Spain. Okay? More. Okay. Let me give you another one. For example, what if we use the verb to hear? What's the verb to hear? It is the verb oír. What happens to a verb? It is stem changing and it is a go verb. So again, only first person single, it changes and we conjugate it like this. Oigo, I hear. The rest, nearly normal. Why nearly normal? Because sometimes in Spanish, we don't tend to have lots of vowels put together. More than two vowels together is something strange to see. So sometimes when we have an I with an E of 2 or 3 vowels, an I can become a Y because it's a similar sound. So this verb goes like this. Oigo, I hear. Oyes, it should be like that, right? But that I with that E over the years has become a Y. So it is like this. Oyes, oye, oímos, oís, oye. So in a way, it is strange because that I that should remain there has become a Y sometimes. Okay? Vale. I will leave that there for you. Vale. So, for example, I don't hear very well. So I need to use hearing aids. I think you could say that in English. Vale. I need to wear. We would use in Spanish. Vale. How will you say that? Remember, I don't hear, go verb needs an extra G. So yo no oigo muy bien. So that connector, it's raining, so I'm staying at home. Or I don't have money, so I'm not going to buy the car. That is así que. It's a good connector to join two sentences. To need is the verb necesitar. So because you want to say I need, necesito usar audífonos. That's how we say hearing aids. Of course, here you could have said yo, but that's not necessary. So no oigo bien o no oigo muy bien, así que necesito usar audífonos. Vale. One more. They okay. From here we hear the our neighbors music. I don't know how correct that is in English, but from here we can hear or we hear. I don't want to use the verb can because I want you to conjugate the verb here. So from here we hear sorry, our neighbor's music. Vale. So from here. So when we say from here from Murcia to Málaga, from Los Alcázares to that type of from, we say desde. So desde aquí nosotros oímos our neighbor's music. We wouldn't say our neighbor's music, we would say the music of our neighbors. La música de nuestros vecinos. Desde aquí, no, música has an accent on the U. That's what it's telling me. Vale. Desde aquí, nosotros oímos la música de nuestros vecinos. More verbs. I hope you are having fun and enjoying this little practice. More verbs. Let me give you another verb. Example, it's going to the verb to drive, which is a very common verb. In Spanish, the verb to drive, it's the verb conducir. What type of stem changing verb? It's that. And that's, as I said, stem changing verb. So before the C, you will need an extra Z only for the first person single. So let's make a sentence. I don't don't drive at night because I don't see very well. Okay, so go verb, sorry, go verb, Z verb. So yo no conduzco, sí, added an extra Z. Yo no conduzco por la noche porque yo no veo muy bien. Yo no conduzco por la noche porque yo no veo muy bien. Okidoki. More. In England, we drive on the left. For example, do you think the verb is going to be weird? Do you think it's going to change for a we? No, because it's a Z verb and only changes in the first person single, I, yo. So for this one, normal conjugation. So, en Inglaterra, nosotros, not needed, but I write it so you know. Conducimos por la izquierda. Conducimos por la izquierda. Vale. So, I think we've covered most of verbs. We've covered verbs where an E becomes an IE, like cerrar or querer. We've covered some verbs where the O becomes a UE, like volver. We've covered verbs where the E becomes an I, like pedir. The only verb where the O becomes a UE, that is the verb to play, jugar. Couple of verbs where the where the first person single, yo, needs an extra G, so go verbs, and also one Z verb. So it needs an extra Z, first person single, yo. So every one of these categories has loads of verbs. We will work with them. So I don't want you to be overwhelmed or think, oh my God, I'm not getting this. It's difficult because of the amount of verbs that have these kind of changes and the fact that you cannot just guess by seeing them if they are stem changing or not. So don't worry, we will work with them and you will become familiar with them. I hope this we practice helped you and I will see you very soon in our next practice video.